Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an alcoholic addict, and today we are on episode 37.
Yo, what up, Mitch? I'm Andrew. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. Psyched to be here for this episode. We got late night energy right now, you and me. It's 12:30 a.m. where I'm at. Oh, Mitch is trying to sit up. Okay. And we're both hoodie mellow right now. As you can see, Mitch is wearing his Lakers jersey, his Lakers sweatshirt, so I had to match with the Celtics jersey. Shout out Robert Williams. Shout out the Time Lord.
Robert Williams.
You know, wait, holy crap.
Yeah, that's my name.
Damn, that's crazy. That's your
Yeah.
name. Holy crap. That's crazy.
I know it is.
Man, it almost makes sense that I'm wearing this then. Wow, that's insane. All right, sorry. Anyway, um,
That's so wild.
yeah, that's insane. Wow. Okay, Robert Williams jersey and Robert Williams podcast. All right, so just before we hopped into this episode, I just wanted to express my gratitude for last episode. It was a special episode for me. Celebrating 2 years was cool. I celebrated at Heron. I told my story there, got my chip, and I celebrated at my home group, and all of that, and um, and then here, and I will say, like, this was doing that episode with you was cathartic for me. Like, it was a real emotional release because you know how it is sometimes. Like, I build into my head all the things that I want to say before I get my chip and in my story, and nothing really comes out right. And there's people there, and it's just like I feel like those chip ceremonies, like, it's not really about me, like it's about other people, and that's like important. But when I sat down with you, I was able to process a lot of emotions. So that was really special for me, and I thank you because if you remember, I was like, yeah, we don't need to do that. Like, we can skip that. So thanks
Yeah.
for not letting me skip it because it was important, man.
Yeah. No, of course, bro. And you text me after and you're like, I don't even know what I said. And that's like that's like, I feel you on that. I've had a lot of experiences like that. I think I had the same experience when I did my anniversary talk too, because it was just straight from the heart. And I wanted to, like, I wanted to give you that chance to like just talk it out and between you and I, because I wish I could have been there and shared that day with you or shared one of those meetings with you. So I wanted to be a part of be a part of that and share that with you too. And I think it's important to fully flesh all that stuff out too,
Mm.
you know. Like we said and like you said, an emotional day, it has all types of emotions, and something to be proud of, but it's like weird because it's like something to not be too proud of, like
Yeah.
and like it's a weird day, but it was awesome to do that and hear you talk about it and see where you've come in the last 2 years. I've been a I've known you for almost 1 year, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see like your growth and all the things that I've learned from you, bro, and like all that stuff. Like, I'm very appreciative of you as well. And I wanted to, I wasn't gonna let it go easily when you were, because you're a humble man. You're like, it's all good, and I was like, nope, I think we should do it. And then I follow that up with like, if you want to, um, if you're okay
No,
with it. But yeah,
no,
today's idea for the pod though is all you, so I'll let you explain that. I'm
well,
excited about it.
I mean, we have a couple guests that we're trying to, wrangle.
Yeah,
And you made a good
both of
comment.
us.
Like, you were texting me, and you were like, "Listen, man, alcoholics, like, worst character defect for most of us is that we're flaky and unreliable."
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel that on a spiritual level, trying to get people to come on here and tell their stories. Like, that's just kind of how we are. It's kind of a miracle that we've had like such consistency, to be honest, because
Yeah.
that's definitely a character defect that I
Yeah, right.
have. So it's cool and that you and I are that consistent, but but while we're kind of waiting on guests, like to be honest with you, I love kicking it like the two of us on this thing because it gives us a little bit of freedom to just kind of talk through whatever topics we have. And I mean this topic is it's not like a very original topic, but it's something that I don't think we've talked about in depth. I think like you said, I think you said what, 20 weeks back we talked about some form of boundaries.
Yeah.
It was around Christmas, New Year's, like just the holidays in general. Um, and it was like mostly we talked about, I think, setting boundaries with our family like around the holidays and not having to get dragged into like family get-togethers if there's drinking um and that was cool. But like at work, actually, one of the group topics we were doing was really all about like what it means to set boundaries, and how important that is for like for us in recovery, especially in early recovery too. And I just thought that was a kind of a crazy topic that we hadn't discussed. Like, I'm trying to think about like then versus now, right? Like, what was it like when I was using, and what is it like now? Um, to set a boundary. I mean, when I was using, I don't even think like that word or that like conception ever entered my head. Like, what is about? Like, I didn't have any boundaries. Both like internally with myself and with other people. Like, in terms of what I had, and you can comment on this because I don't really know if this makes any sense, but like, I didn't feel like I had a moral code that I thought like I would stick by, but every time it was like I put a drink or a drug in my body, like there was like any sense of boundary that I have in terms of my actions or the things that I would do, they disappeared. Like I would steal from anyone or lie to anyone about anything. Like it didn't really matter if it benefited me or like aided in my drug use, then like it all disappeared. Like I think drugs and alcohol, what they did to me is they destroyed any boundaries that I had created that would like you know, keep me on any sort of like path of rightness or of just being a good human. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking like too, it's like it like addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism kind of like wears away at the boundaries that we may have started with. Like you were saying, like we might have when we had moral compass and boundaries and good stuff like that, innately. And then like as we start to use and stuff and have these experiences and more like for me, I know my tolerance thing was like a thing that I was always trying to push and like show off. And as my tolerance went up, my boundaries started to move and my being okay with doing certain things like
Mm-hmm.
stealing, cheating, hurting other people became easier to do. And like if it did bother me, I would just up my dosage,
Yep.
and then it didn't bother me anymore. So um, I think the boundaries thing is really interesting because it applies to so much. It's like I think when people hear boundaries, the first way they think about it, at least for me, is like when I hear boundaries, I think my boundary with another person.
Mm.
Like, but I think when you have like the alcoholic and addict lens, I mean, and even if you don't, you can break it down to more things than just one person with another person. I think it can be, having boundaries within yourself. For me, I feel like boundary and boundaries really connect with like self-love too. So like what I've been trying to grow is this more. I've been trying to grow my self-love over the last like 6 years, definitely 6 years. More like the 6 months is when I've been hyper focusing on it and like boundaries for me in terms of there's still actions I can take that are malicious towards me,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to set up boundaries within myself that I won't cross because I know that'll hurt me.
Mm.
Like negative self-talk. That's a boundary that I don't want to cross. And when I do, I try to correct it and try to reinforce positive self-talk. That's one example. I mean, another one for me really was not respecting myself in terms of like relationships and stuff. And I've been really trying to foster that. And I've had a really good couple months of like fostering a place where I don't need to be in a situation with anyone. I can, and like a boundary for me on in regards to that is like the codependence or stuff like that, trying to strengthen myself where it's not like something that I
Mm.
need to take, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like talking about self-love and that negative self-talk. Like you're completely right. When I think, like when I first thought, what is a boundary? When I first had this prompt at work, it was like, oh, obviously this talk is just talking about boundaries with others, like certain things and certain behavior we won't put up with, and certain this and that, like that we won't engage in with other people. But I think, at least for me, like I'm really, I can't be expected to uphold any boundaries with other people if I don't have any boundaries with myself, right? Like, and like when you said negative self-talk, that just like lit up a light bulb in my head, because I think that's the start, right? For us, like for me, like for instance, like if I'm not injured or have like a real injury, like, and I don't go to the gym, and this is funny because it's pertinent because of what just happened to you, but like, and then I don't go to the gym for what? I mean, what is it? It takes 2, 3 days tops for me to not go to the gym, for me to start telling myself that like I'm fat, or I'm lazy, or I'm out of shape, or I'm losing muscle mass, or whatever it is. Like, you know, and it's the same with everything. Like if I go, let's say I go 4 or 5 days without a meeting, or a week without a meeting, like immediately it's like you're slacking off, you're gonna relapse, you're fucking everything up in your recovery. And it's along all those lines, like that I will slip into negative self-talk. And that happens, I think, because there's a part of my brain that wants me to relapse and that wants me to feel like shit about myself.
Mhm.
So the boundary with myself, like this is all coming to me kind of now because you just said negative self-talk. Like the boundary with myself is almost like, yeah, obviously it's not good that I haven't exercised in this many days, or I haven't been to a meeting in this many days. Like obviously I'm not going to sit and tell myself everything's cool, but like I have to have a boundary with myself to acknowledge that the behavior maybe not be good and I have to change it. But if I start telling myself that I'm a piece of shit because of it, it's only going to make the behavior worse.
Mm.
Really, like that type of talk paralyzes me.
Yeah. It feeds
So
it.
exactly, it's like it's a negative feedback loop, right? It's like it perpetuates the negative behavior.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, it's tough to have that boundary though, because like do you get like a sick, like almost like a sick pleasure out of punishing myself? You know
Dude,
what I mean?
yeah, 100%. And it's like even tonight, since as we were talking, I'm thinking about it, it's like uh I went and did leg day yesterday by myself. Today I was gonna take off because I'm coaching a championship meet all day tomorrow. I'm gonna be on deck like 7 to 8 p.m. standing up coaching. And I wasn't hurt before really, but some guys that I look up to and that I like with and I've been, chilling with were like, hey, we're hitting leg day. And I was like, all right, I'll do that again. And I go there, and then because I have a tendency to be people pleasing and want to like look good and want to, make sure that this is like the first time working out with him. So I was like, I gotta make this look dope. I gotta show how much weight I can lift, yada yada yada. And I started and my back hurt. and I just ignored it. Like didn't listen. I was like, "You're fine." Kept going, ignored it. And then like they were gassing me up like that's a lot of weight. And I was like, "Put on more." And at that point, my whole right side was like hurting. And they put on more, and I went down, came up, and now, there's for everyone listening or watching, I'm leaned back because I destroyed my back on one of those reps after like multiple notifications from my body to stop and brain to stop because I wanted to push that boundary and that I wanted to like look good, really.
Mm.
And I was like, "You're fine." And came up and like now my whole right, I haven't had an injury on the in a while, like a bad one. I had something similar to this like 2 years ago, and I was good about it until then. And then I talked to one of the trainers that was at the gym, and he like put his hand there and was like feeling it out, and he's like, "Yeah, this is pretty bad. You should go home right now." And I already told the guys like, "Let's just go do some like arms or something." He's like, "No, you should go home right now. Like, it's really bad." And he was like, uh "What were you doing?" And I told him, and he was like basically called me an idiot and was like, "That's just like ego lifting, you know? That was just dumb." And which is kind of funny. But as I was driving home to speak to what you were saying, I was like, now I look like, now I look like a bitch to these guys, and they're probably gonna think like, "Oh, we're gonna work out with him again." Like he left after 30 minutes, said he hurt his back, and like my head's just going,
Mhm.
and there's no one there to check it. And so it's awesome that we're doing this right now because, yeah, it was dumb. And am I going to be hurt? Yeah. But it feels like the last time that I would do that. But um, it's definitely pertinent to the boundaries, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, and it's not like this is the line that we have to draw with ourselves, right? It's like, all right, yeah, I recognize maybe I made a mistake here. Like, but am I an idiot? No. Like,
Yeah.
do am I a human being with like character defects? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's all right. Like I do the same thing all the time in different respects, right? And it's almost like negative self-talk for me and like and not having and as it expands into other areas of my life, as in like, there are certain actions and like standards I have for myself that I've really just discovered in recovery. Because again, like before being in recovery and in the almost decade of constant use, like I didn't really have any of these standards for myself like
Mm.
planned out or anything, nothing. It's kind of crazy to think like I just kind of floated along like without really any sort of like anchor, moral anchor or anything. But like there are standards that I have with myself that no matter who I'm talking to or no matter like who the person is, like this is the amount of respect that I'm going to carry, and these are the conversations that I'll engage in, and these are the things that I won't engage in. Like along those lines, like I need to have the respect for myself, like that I'm going to carry that out. Like I can't sit there and be and truly like actually tell myself that I'm being respectful. I can't sit here and have this conversation with you and like say that I'm truly listening and that I'm taking in what you're saying to me and processing it and like listening to you as an equal if I don't have some sort of standard for myself, right? Like and it's like I can notice that difference because in my active use, right? Like I would listen to what somebody was saying, like and either in that listening, like I would really not be paying attention, or I'd be paying attention to someone else, or my mind would wander to, you know, when am I gonna fucking cop again, or was my guy hit me up again or whatever, or I would sit here and I would be like, this guy's an idiot, and I would think of all the ways that this person is wrong. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like light just turned off. That was weird. But I don't know. Like the biggest difference that I can see, like with myself and my own boundaries with myself, is that Like today, I have a set of standards like of self-respect, and that allows me to like put that outwards towards others and
Yeah.
be, respectful to what they have to say and be able to listen. Like like it's almost like how much it's like it's corny, it's like golden rule shit, but it's like if I was speaking, how would I want someone to listen to me? You know what
Yep.
I mean? And that's a boundary for myself. Like how willing am I to be disrespectful to this person, because really being disrespectful to this person is just being disrespectful to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I really started to see that. I really, really started to see that. Um, like all those actions that we take against others, whether they're spoken or thought about, I mean, it comes back. I'm
mhm.
not a fan of karma at all, and I don't really like to use that word, but um, the idea is pretty close, I think, that like, you know, hurting other people and stuff like that is really, they might be okay after like 5 minutes, but you did it and it's going to stay with you. You know what I mean? And like, I think I think the crazy part is like, as we're sitting here talking, I was like, what a, not to get cheesy, but like, what a blessing that our recovery is that we can sit here and be so self and attuned and like aware and like break down fucking boundaries at like midnight for you, and like 10 o'clock for me or 1 a.m. for you, 10 o'clock for me. Like, I think I've been thinking about that recently too, how it's like, and I said this to my sponsor early when we first started doing the steps. I was like, this is over analyzing. This is not good. And this is like too much. I feel like we're doing too much analyzing here. And he was like over analyzing without action can be bad. Like over analyzing without any action behind it can be bad, but I feel like we over analyze and then actively try to correct or improve that behavior, thought path, or whatever it is. And I think that's awesome, bro. Like,
Mhm.
would I be sitting here if we didn't record tonight after I hurt myself and be like, Mitch, so like, it's okay. Like, you didn't have to do that. No, I'd probably be like, you're an idiot and go to bed like all upset, and I already feel a lot better. My back doesn't, but I feel a lot better. And I was gonna say one other thing, which is crazy. I've been having experience with this a lot recently, and started happening right after I opened myself up to experience it with some of the guys in my home group, some of the younger dudes. And as I was driving back from the gym just now, I'm like in all this morbid reflection, and I'm like driving to CVS to buy a heating pad and Advil. I get a call from a dude with like 3 months, and he calls me and he's yelling into the phone off jump. Like first thing, he was like yelling into the phone because he has to finish a paper by 12 tonight. And he was like, I'm freaking out. I hate this. I don't want to do it. I shouldn't have waited this long and everything's fucked. And that's the exact fucking thing that I needed. Like, it's just like when me and him talked about it. And then and then I told him what happened to me. And the analogy I used, which I was proud of this one, thought of it on my own, was that it sounds like both of our microwaves are on fire, but our house isn't on fire, so there's no need to like get out the gasoline and start pouring it everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, are you cutting it close with your paper coming up at 12? Pretty close. But we can, we don't need to, because he was talking about like school was a big trigger for him and made him want to use and stuff. And I was like, you don't have to burn everything down around it. And
Mhm.
like, same with me. Was it dumb that I did that? And yeah, but I don't need to ruin my whole night and ruin the whole day tomorrow. And like, I don't need to keep snowballing. So the divine intervention of him picking up the phone and calling and us having that conversation was pretty
Mm.
sick.
Mm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Mm. Kind of like, kind of along those lines, right? One of the things we talked about in the group that we were doing at work with this topic is like, kind of expanding out, right? Like when we're put like we put up boundaries, when we establish boundaries with others, right? And this is all about like protecting our recovery, like protecting our recovery, our emotional health, like all of those things that are tied in with like having a healthy recovery, right? And we touched upon it in that like in that holiday episode, like, but boundaries really like with others is really like a sacrifice, like a what am I willing, what kind of lengths am I going, like am I willing to go for to protect my recovery? And part of that, right, is like communication. Is like how do we communicate with people, like that a boundary needs to be established, right? Like, and I think it's like kind of a it's kind of a weird line, right? Because there's a couple ways to go about it, and I think I've gone about it a couple different ways, like with mixed results in my recovery, in my sobriety. Like I think early on, I think I'm kind of, made not enemies, but I kind of screwed up some friendships when I got out of treatment, right? Because like I kind of had this attitude, like if you smoke, if you drink, if you do drugs, like fuck you, pretty much. Um, and I'd be curious to hear about your experience at Denison because I mean I'm sure it was different, but like some of the same stuff applied. Like I needed a boundary, right? I needed to put a boundary up between me and these people that I used to call my friends, and that some of them still are my friends. But, you know, it's like I can't see you. I can't be with you. I can't spend time with you if you're going to be actively using around me or like rolling up around me or playing drinking games around me. Like at that point in my recovery, it wasn't something that I could be around. And it's not something I can be around still. Like I can't be around if people are using hard drugs or if they're like actively smoking weed or if they're like if someone's having a couple beers at dinner, like I've gotten to a place where I can have a little bit of comfort there and not like, get squirrely or anything. But the thing is, like in establishing those boundaries, I was disrespectful in a lot of my communication, like pretty much like, yeah, bro, you smoke weed, so like I can't be around you. Or like you still do this or cocaine or whatever it is. So like pretty much like fuck you.
Mm,
And that like hurt a lot of friendships, right? And so I think communication and establishing boundaries is important because a lot of these people we're still my friends. Like, but we come at them and they have this idea, right? That and it looked like it was too because that they're like Andrew, this is some self-righteous bullshit.
mm,
Like you were the one in treatment, Andrew, not me.
mm,
Like you were the one who was fucked up. You were the one who's an addict. Like I smoke weed twice a week. Like I don't need to smoke every 3 seconds. I'm not on Oxycontin. Not like all this stuff. Like it kind of turned the camera on me because I'm sitting here thinking like I'm God. Like, look at me, I'm some higher being. I'm sober. And if you bring any of that shit around me, so help me God, I'll fucking strike you down.
mm.
Like, and that was a boundary I created that was wicked unhealthy in the way I created it. Cause like how many bridges did I burn doing that?
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. I don't really even thinking about that, but uh, as I'm sitting here too, I'm thinking like, damn, I think I'm more people pleasing than I thought I was. But like when I was early in recovery, I had like less than a year when I went back to Denison. Um, and they put me in the sober living, or I put myself slash they put me in the sober living,
Which dorm
which
was
is
that?
like it's like one floor on East.
Uh-huh.
I don't, is that the name of the building?
Yeah.
East, like across from Huffman and or next to Huffman. It was like the third floor. And I was blessed because Kamani, who's like one of my best friends of all time, uh, and was my roommate that year. And he brought the conversation to me. He said, yo, because he's like, he did the normal amount of drinking and smoking and as you do on a college campus.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, do you want me to not like how do you want to handle the drinking and smoking stuff? And with him, I was like, I would appreciate it if you just didn't have alcohol or weed in the room. And shout out to him. That was never an issue the whole year, which was very helpful for me. But I think I wanted to fit in as fast. I wanted to fit back in as fast as I could and not stand out and stuff. And I think I held a good barrier or boundary for a little bit, first couple months into school, and then I started going to the parties and just put myself in bad situations. Um, People, and to their credit too, people would ask, like, is it okay if we smoke or drink? You know, if it was like a smaller gathering or whatever. And I would always say yes, and then just like stare at their drinks and stuff. And that's when I think I brought up before where I had that thing where if I really started to think about drinking or whatever, I would leave. Um, but I think that I didn't like respect I either was gonna go and be there for like 15 or 20 minutes, or I would cancel on everyone and lock myself in my room. Those were like
Mhm.
I wanted to avoid confrontation, especially that first year. I was like, and you know what's crazy is as the years went on, that was my sophomore year. I think I was good about it. And then junior and senior year, especially senior year, this is like the weirdest part I've been in my recovery. Actually, I haven't really talked about this, but like my senior year, we were like in Chamberlain, all the parties were there. So we had all these parties. And like for one of the parties, when my high school, we made this certain kind of like jungle juice. And it would like we called it Skippies, and it was like beer and liquor and lemonade mix and all this stuff and pre-workout. And like you drank like 2 or 3 cups of that, and it was called Skippies because you take like 2 or 3 cups and then you skip to like 5 hours later. Like that's when you come back. And we prided ourselves on that in high school. And my senior year, I made that in my room with my roommates for a party. Like I was pouring vodka in to the orange container. I was pouring the beers in. I was telling them what the recipe is. I was putting all that in for the party. I mean, I was like right here. And I had so many people, I had so many eyes on me that I guess that's what kept me from doing it, but that's really insane now that I'm like
Yeah, it's
where I'm at now.
insane, dude.
Like, and we would have parties, and like I would have a solo cup and fill it with an energy drink. I have one good friend of mine who used to come up to me, grab my drink, and drink it to test what it was. He wouldn't say anything. He'd grab my drink, drink it, and then give it back to me. And he did that at multiple parties all my junior year because that's when I was in a bad spot. And then my senior year, I think he did it like once or twice. And then I grabbed it back and I was like, you need to stop. Like, you need to stop doing that. Like, I'm not drinking anything. I mean, his heart was in a good spot, but I think for that, like, I never really lashed out at anyone. If anything, I think what I would do is just gain a resentment for someone for doing it around me without even telling them.
Mhm. That's what
So
we do.
I'd be like, I fucking hate you. Like the audacity of you to drink in front of me like that and not whether you didn't ask me, and then if you did ask me and I said it's okay, you kept doing it. But I said it was
Yeah.
okay, but
Yeah.
you should have known not to do it. So I had a lot of like resentment stuff like that where it was like that, and then I had some of the hardest resentments inventories that I had to do. This is the last thing I'll say on this is that my using buddies at school, like one of my best friends, my freshman year, I've talked about him before. Uh, we were like stuck together using all the time, and when I came back, pretty much said like 3 or 4 words to him. I had like a such a disdain for him, and like I remember thinking like I hope he has to go to rehab. Like
Mm.
I hope things don't work out for him. And it ended up like he's fine, bro. Like he can do all that stuff and be fine. And I remember a lot of like secret resentments.
Yep.
And then I would use that as fuel, and you wouldn't even I could smile, shake your hand, and in my head I'd be like, I hate you. And that was talking about hurting you more than them. They didn't even know. So who
Hmm.
was it hurting? Me.
Yeah, dude. And the crazy thing about what you just said is like, I feel the same way because it was the same way with me the first, and it's happened to me a couple times. It's like people come up, right? And this is like I would go between like either establishing a boundary in like a really unhealthy way, like and burn bridges that way, or like they'd ask me, hey, like I just went to the dispensary, like for instance, one of my buddies was visiting me, right? And he had just, he was a guy who I used to smoke weed with a bunch, whatever, and he stopped at the dispensary after he landed, and he was like, hey, I just went to the dispensary. I have like these pre-rolls and like gummies or whatever the fuck else. And um he was like, you mind if I smoke like in your backyard or on your back porch or the apartment or whatever? And I was like, yeah, dude, whatever, go ahead. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm fucking cool as a cucumber over here. I'm like fucking 7 months sober or whatever. I'm still like kind of like this, like, yeah.
Yep.
And he goes back out there, and like I can see there's like a window right to the back porch. And like I can just see him like light it up and start smoking. And I look at him like, and he's smoking. I see him smoking. He's like back, he's got like his music on and shit. And I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm like, I fucking hate this dude. It's like, and you know what I did the next time? So he had multiple, right? And like, we're watching basketball or something. And I'm 5 hours later. He's like, yo, I'm going to go smoke again. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, word. And I'm like, man, fuck this. And I had a black and mild, and I was still smoking black and milds at this time. And I fucking grabbed one of those. I'm like, I'm going out there with you. And I fucking went out there with him, right? And like, I'm of course like now I'm fucking scared shitless
Yeah.
because like I'm 7 months sober. I want to keep my sobriety. Like, I don't want to relapse on some fucking secondhand smoke bullshit.
Yep.
Like, but so we're on this little porch, and I'm like 12 feet. I'm as far away from him as I could possibly be. Like, I went out there to be all macho, like, look at me smoke my fucking black and mild. But I get out there, I'm scared shitless because I'm like, all right, I got to stay away from him. And like, which way is the wind going? Like, what's the wind direction here? Like, and I smoking my black and mild, and he's like sitting there enjoying his weed, whatever. I could smell it. I'm fucking now it's a trip because I'm smelling weed and I'm inhaling smoke, and I'm like, what is going on?
Mm.
And like it was a disaster, right? And because I had no boundary, I had thought of nothing before. I hadn't discussed anything with a sponsor. I didn't have you like in my life or like older role models that I had talked about it with, like about a plan, about maybe Andrew, it's not a good idea for you to go smoke a cigarette while he's smoking a joint. Like none of that. I hadn't approached him respectfully and said, "Hey, maybe you don't smoke around me anywhere," or any of that. I hadn't done any of that. Because of that, now I was doing something completely insane, like in putting like my sobriety at risk and my peace of mind fucking flushed down the toilet. Like I'm sitting there, and this is a dude again that I love. Like I've known him for almost a decade. Like and he's a close friend of mine. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, I want to kill this person. Like I hate him. And that's a danger for me, like of not putting up a boundary. Now, like that nowadays, like and maybe it's different for you, right? 6 years versus two. Like I don't know how it is down the road, but nowadays I'm real fucking clear.
Yeah.
Like talk about assertive communication. Like I'm not there's a difference between being assertive and being an asshole, I think, right? Like, and I got to be assertive when I create a boundary. Like, hey, these are the things that I'm okay with being around. Like, I'm okay with you being around drinking a beer or two at dinner. I'm okay with my mom having a glass of wine at dinner. Like, what I'm not okay with is somebody rolling a backwood in front of me, somebody rolling this in front of somebody actively having weed in front of me, is smelling burning weed from like my buddy smoking it in the backyard, is anybody doing any sort of hard drug around me. Like, and I'm real clear about that. And when I'm clear about it, like the thing I was scared of, right? Because I have friends who still use. And that's cool. That's their choice. Like I'm not gonna and I don't spend a lot of time with them anymore because that's just the nature of it. Like I spend more time with sober people because that's me, that's my lifestyle. And I have a lot of fun like in that way. But when I do venture back like occasionally into the, mid-20s party life and go to a bar or go see a concert or whatever, like I was wicked scared like that my friends wouldn't want to see me like and everything else. But I find that when I'm clear about what I need, like number one, I find out who my real friends are real fast. Because if I'm clear about what I need and like if somebody's like not with that, like well, like I want to do blow around, like then they're gone. Like they don't, I don't see them. They stop responding to texts, like or that I don't make plans with them. And number two, when I'm clear and I'm like assertive about putting those boundaries up and sticking to them, my friends are a lot more comfortable around me because they know what they like, they know what makes me comfortable and they know what makes me uncomfortable. It's a lot easier to live like with those rules established. Like it's easier for me to spend time with people who still drink than people who use, like, and it's easier for them if they know what to expect from me, if I know what to expect from them. Like there's a lot of like chaos in the uncertainty and it ruins a lot of friendships. I think I've seen it ruin my friendships. Like when people don't know what I want. And so they just kind of think, all right, I'm going to use around them, whatever. And then I lose my shit. Like, boom, there goes a friendship. So I don't know. Like, I think being assertive is important, but I have a tendency again to be an asshole sometimes. Like, I take that assertive thing and I think it's an excuse for me to be an asshole. So it's like it's a muscle that has to be trained. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely do. I feel like I could do a better job of being assertive. The whole time you're talking, I'm like, damn, I could probably do that, bro. Because I think I like I didn't really I don't want to cause a, I don't want to be like it's weird because I am that sober guy, like I post all the
Mm-hmm.
fucking time and we have a podcast and we have a TikTok and a YouTube and an Instagram. But I don't want to be in that social setting where it's like, hey, uh um I'm sober. So I would appreciate it if you didn't drink that around me. Like I don't know why I don't want to do that. And I was with some of my boys like a couple months ago, not now, this past summer. And they went off to go do a certain drug that was used to be heavy in my rotation. And I wanted to go in the room and like stand with them. I really did. I didn't. I ended up sitting in the room that I was in by myself. I just kind of sat there because like everyone went on some like fiend shit. And I just like sat there and I was like, you're a loser. I remember thinking that. And then like my sober brain was like, chill, there's like there started this like conversation in my head. Like, no, you're not a loser. Like, you don't do that anymore, yada, yada, yada. But like, as you were talking about years, at 6 years, I'm sitting in a room by myself while my friends are all fucking doing bumps. And I'm like beating myself up, like how, like, not only can you not do cocaine, well, I guess I'm saying it, not only can you not do that, but you can't stand in the room with them. And there's a part of you that wants that still.
Mm-hmm.
So like this idea of, and I was just starting to like really work my program too, really work the steps. And it's not something that just is gone forever. I've heard some guys with like a lot of time that are like, I don't have any cravings anymore at all. And I don't know, I hope that's my experience, but it's not been my experience to 6 years. But I also haven't worked a really good program that's honest to myself for most of my recovery. So it hasn't been my experience yet, but um, I mean, that really tripped me out because I was like, and like we were leaving the next day and stuff, so it didn't end up coming into anything, but I'd still have those things where it's like it won't completely go away. And I think a lot of the time there's been times where I'm like, just I want all of that to go away. And I just a constant reminder that this is very much a lifelong battle, very much. It's a lifelong of growth. It's a lifelong battle. And my favorite thing to say, bro, is that the only way we can win, because I'm obsessed with winning, is dying sober. And like, I'm on board with that. I really am. But it can really confuse people listening too, I think. Also, like I've had someone reach out before, like, you really have cravings still? And I don't mean to say that in a tone that's like condescending to them. It was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Same.
you know, maybe not like I'm not like foaming at the mouth, like staring like with my face up against a window of a gas station. But like will thoughts pass through, you know? Yeah, they do. I mean, I think it was like a couple months ago, I had this insane like weed dream, and I haven't had a weed dream in a long time, but I was like
Mm,
smoking, and inside my dream, bro, was me like really high thinking about how I'm gonna tell everyone that I'm not sober anymore, which was really, really a trippy dream to wake up out of. But
mm,
yeah,
mm.
you talking about that made me think about maybe think about that and
Dude.
like the boundaries that I'm willing to cross to people please for others is something that literally after having this conversation I'm gonna look into like a big time because like just us talking about it really spurred it for me like bro I really do push my boundaries that when I'm in my room by myself I won't push but when I'm in a group of friends or a group of people I respect or with a group of people I want to impress I will push my boundaries to an uncomfortable and unsafe place for me
Mm-hmm.
and that's fucking something to look at. And I will.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I knew the same thing. Like we've been exchanging stories this whole time. Like it's kind of funny. Like this is a boundaries episode, and we're out here talking about like, damn, like all these times I've just kind of let them crumble.
Mm.
Like, and the thing like for you that that I'm thinking about as you're telling me this story, right, is like you had that craving, right, for that, you know, certain substance. Because right, because it was in your presence and because you could probably literally hear him going at it in the bathroom. Like it's like I think, and I don't think this is like a clean correlation, but I think that there's something to be said, like that, the more effective boundaries that we put up with who we're spending our time with, where we're spending our time, and what we're willing to put up with in terms of other people using. Like, I think that has a direct connection with like the intensity of our cravings.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I have cravings anyway. Even if I had picture perfect boundaries, I'd have cravings. I think that's a fact. But,
Yeah.
and I don't have picture perfect boundaries, but I know, like, after my buddy left in that whole episode, like, did I want to smoke for like a week? Yeah. Like, I was on the phone with my sponsor, like, damn, bro, I saw him rolling up and I saw him doing this and that. And like, I had to be, because for me, when I'm with people that are like drinking in excess and doing drugs and everything else in excess, like for them, like it's still fun. Like for them, like they're still in the phase, alcoholic or not, they're in this phase of like they're still living in the unreality of it. Like it's all of the romanticizing that I do is there for me to see. There it is.
Mm-hmm. I
Like
love that.
and it when that happens, like all because I don't know, I'm a visual learner. Like and I see like, oh, like damn, they're really getting after it on the dance floor after going to the bathroom for 5 minutes. Like, or they're doing this and that, and they're listening to this music and look how relaxed they are and blah 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 blah. Like uh and I put myself in those positions sober, like no shit, I'm gonna want to do it because my brain is already like you say it all the time. Like, well, even though we're not using our diseases doing push-ups in the parking lot, like
Yeah.
my brain is conditioned to be like, yeah, let's go. We got an excuse. Let's get after it. Let's
It's
get out
fucking
of
it's
ourselves.
ready, bro.
Yeah. And
It's ready.
if I see that, like how can I not expect my brain to be like, yeah, bro, look at them. They're living the dream. Like all of that romanticizing comes to life. Like and that's for me, like I don't it gets to a certain point and I don't think like it's this drastic and that we are like losers or anything, but because I don't. I think there's a massive sober community that does a lot of amazing things, and I think I'm a part of it, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. And I don't think any one of those members that I hang out with and do stuff with is a loser. But
Yep.
I'd much rather be a loser than like go back to the way I lived.
Right.
Like,
Amen to that, dog.
and I don't think about that. If I don't have a boundary up and I go see people doing, what you were just describing and what I was just describing, like I'm not thinking about the worst day of my using. I'm thinking about the best days. Like I'm thinking about the happy times. Like, and that's wicked dangerous for me, bro. Like it's wicked, wicked, wicked dangerous for me. So I don't know, like, and it's a thing that like as we're talking, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to think about this too, but because I don't know what the answer is, but I know like I think I get sicker like the more time I spend around that type of scene.
Hmm.
And that's just the way it is. Like I don't have to hate on anybody like who does it. And I don't maybe have to get rid of friends, but like I have to be able to say no. Like, no, I'm not gonna be there. No, I can't be around. Like, I'm not gonna be in this party. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna be there. Like, I
Yeah.
can't bring my body to this place.
Yeah, I've definitely been able to say no. That's one that I'm good at. It's only two letters, not that hard to pronounce, and I've definitely been able to rip that one probably to the max because and I feel bad about that too. It's like some of my friends out here, like I have some Baltimore homies out here that, I was friends with when I was using, and then they moved out here and I moved out here and we're like, yeah, let's get after it. I've hung out with them a good amount and there's a couple of them that I really actually really like, but the way that they like relax is they go to the bars here or they go to the clubs here. And I've tried. Um, I can't. I can't relax. I can't. I feel literally like a fish out of water, like in the
Mhm.
clubs and stuff like that. Like I can, especially a club, but like some of the bars are all jam packed and everyone's like fiending at the bar. And I just really can't. I haven't gone to a bar now probably in like 3 or 4 months, maybe I think longer, honestly. Um, and it's not to say that I couldn't and that I'd order a drink if I went, but I know that most likely, this could be wrong, but most likely I won't meet someone there that uh I'd want to. And then also I don't know. Like that's not the way that I want to socialize or like cut loose at this point in my life. And so because of that, I'm not really chilling with those dudes. So I mean, sobriety can be isolating in that way too when it comes to friends that use or drink, like a normal person. It can be isolating in that way if they misperceive your intention by saying, "Hey, I would appreciate it if you don't do that." They could perceive that as he doesn't, like me anymore or he doesn't want to hang out with me. And I've had experiences like that where I've lost some friends or just, there's been a distance that has grown because I don't feel comfortable in those settings. Um, yeah, I mean that's just straight up how it is. And I will say like when I jumped out of treatment, my counselor there was so amazing, and I really gotta find her. But she had me like delete all these numbers and all these like photos and all these videos and stuff. And like there's some dudes that I've never talked to since getting sober.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Like not a hey, not a hi, not a happy birthday. Like I was talking to them before I got sober. Like we probably had a conversation on November 7th and 8th of
Mm-hmm.
2016 and I went to rehab on the 10th and I haven't had a conversation since.
Mm-hmm. Same thing.
So like in terms of a boundary, like some of those ones just fade straight out. Um,
Mm-hmm. I think those clear boundaries, like again, they tell us who our real friends are.
Definitely.
Like, and that's the thing too, is
But
like an
just real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but just real quick, like, do you ever feel, I just want to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like you're inconveniencing your good friends that have stayed with you by being like, by us being sober and clean? Like, do you ever feel like, oh man, like I'm gonna inconvenience them by being there because they can't cut loose or they can't do this or they can't? Have you ever felt that?
yeah, of course. Like every time I see them.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, and I gotta shout out like a couple people in particular. My my best friend from college, Rich, uh, and another friend, Will. Like I've said this to them before because and I know you got the same situation. Like these are dudes that I like, before, in the morning it was like, whose room we smoking in? At lunch, whose room we smoking in? Like at
Yep.
in between class, whose room we smoking in?
Dude, we were living
Before
the same life at
practice,
Denison, bro.
like
We were
before,
just down the hall.
yeah. The difference was is I let it go for 4 more years and it ended up, where it ended up. But
That's okay.
um that was it. Like that was our life, and but we got close in every other way. But regardless, these are very close friends of mine. And when I got clean, like I had this guilt, right? Like, man, like what have I done to our friendship? Like, but I voiced this to them and I was like, listen, boys, like I just feel really bad. Like when I'm gonna see you, like obviously I don't really want to be around like a bunch of drugs. Like, and I know that's how we used to get after it and everything else. And one of them, Rich was like, listen, man, like we didn't just like getting fucked up with you. Like you're the motherfucker who like getting fucked up all the time. Like we liked to do drugs occasionally, like whatever. We smoked a lot and for like a year or two in college, and then we kind of straightened out. Like you just kept going. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you never. So I think the thing is an active addiction. Like we get it twisted.
we do.
Like
That's a good point.
that our closest friend. We're all doing this, aren't we? Like are we all spending $400 on pills a week? Like, isn't this what we're all doing this? Like,
Oh, it sucks, bro.
but like the thing is no, most of the time we're the only one doing it. Like, and I said, but isn't it going to be like kind of a bummer now, like hanging out with me? And Rich looked at me and said, listen, bro, like I've had to like resuscitate you like 3 times.
Mm.
Like, I don't have to worry about that when I hang out with you now. Like I'd rather hang out with you that's like I don't have to worry about dying half the time than like you were no fun to hang out with at the end. Like we had some good times in the beginning, but like you're a disaster on drugs, Andrew. Like you're no fun to hang out with. Like that's the pure fact. And anybody who has fun hanging out with you in that state is not a person worth being around, like in sobriety. And he said it to me, and he's like point blank, period. Like we don't have to worry about you dying. Like I don't, no amount of good times on drugs with you will outweigh the fact that at the end, every day we were constantly worried that you were going to die. So when I think about that, again, it's a distortion in my brain. Like it's not real. Like all of that thinking I'm inconveniencing, like I was inconveniencing them seriously when I was doing drugs. Like that's the fucking fact.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so true. I relate so heavily to the like were we all really fucked up? And like, nah, bro, you were on the one you were the one on the floor. Like dude,
That's how it was, man.
yeah. I can't relate to that more. I was
Yeah.
like I have so many war stories about that, but I agree. I think the it's well, I'm happy we did the talked about the boundaries. We went to a lot of other places, but I feel like that the action of just talking about it and talking through it, and for me, bro, I feel like had a therapeutic session for me. I like connected a dot that was like these two dots have been probably sitting in front of me for like my whole life, and I just connected them tonight in the last hour, which feels good. But it's a it's like the boundary too. The whole thing about a boundary, if we're gonna get English major on it, is like it's you between something else. Uh, like defensively though, right? Kind of like does it have a sense of defense to it at all? Boundary.
I mean, I think
Uh,
so.
yeah, I think so. So in that lens, it's like we were saying, the self-care, not selfish. I mean, I guess it could be. But I guess with the boundaries too, the question is like, what are we defending ourselves from? And for me, I'm like, I was a very defensive person. So I think when I was not sober, when I got sober, I think, like I was saying in the beginning, I wanted to be included again so fast and be a part of the group and be a part of again so fast that I let a lot of that straight go through. But uh, now I think as it stands, and there's some other, I don't even know what I'm saying. I think that the you gotta help me out. I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to say about like the self-defense.
Well, I mean, I mean, the reason the reason that I put myself in those positions and broke down my boundaries is because I was trying to like assert my ego,
Yeah,
like, and to
that's true.
show that I could hang, like I could do it. But I wasn't different. Like, and realistically, I was like defending my ego. I was defending the fact that I could still be one of the guys. Like, whereas I put up a boundary and I'm defending my sobriety. Like, that's what it's a defense. It's a defense
Yeah, yeah,
against
yeah.
like
That's what I mean to say.
relapse. I mean, in a real simple way, that's all it is for me. Is like, do I want to like, do I want to do drugs today, or do I want to protect myself from doing drugs today?
Yeah,
Like, and I got to make decisions and put up, fences and walls, like as I'm walking along that path of life, so that those fucking blind spots and those things that would sneak up on me, like they don't have a chance to, because there's a fucking wall.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's kind of like the idea of like avoiding avoidable circumstances. That one kept me
that's what I'm
sober
saying.
for a good amount of time.
That's what I'm
Like
saying.
obviously we can't, and I've tried it, it doesn't work. Lock yourself in your room for like a year because you just go insane. Take my
Right.
word on that one. But so like obviously we're gonna, I mean, I live in California. I smell weed probably every day. And
Mhm.
like, that stuff, some of that stuff we just can't avoid. But I feel like in interpersonal relationships, stuff like that, we can definitely build it up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to be a safer place. But it's late for you, bro. You gotta go to bed.
It's late. It's been a good episode. I got a lot to think about, right, man? It's just like you said, I learn a lot every time we have these talks, every time we record these things. Like, I have like kind of like a curtain moment, like curtain gets pulled and I'm like, aha, what is this? Like,
Yeah, this one
either some
especially for me.
blind spot or something. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate you making time after your
too.
traumatic injury to
I just hope I wake up and I'm not like frozen. That's all I'm praying for. 'Cause I got to
keep the
coach all
phone.
day tomorrow.
Keep a
But
phone
my boy made a
nearby.
joke. My boy told me I should get a cane
Yeah, maybe you should.
and coach the whole meet with a cane. That would be tough. That would be tough. But thank you for everyone listening. Episode 37 was a good one. Thank you to everyone that's been sending us messages. I know we have a TikTok now that's being like posted on. If you wanna, we just basically post clips from all of the YouTube videos. So if you want to hit us up on that, it's the same username as this one, PM Recovery or Present Moment Recovery. And appreciate your continued support and love. It's very felt, and feel like the community's just continuing to grow. So that's been pretty dope.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a great journey, and seeing it as it grows. Just, like you said, you get all the questions really, but all the feedback we get, all the guests, it's been awesome. It's just, it's a continuous gift. So I love you. I'll keep coming back.
Love y'all. Keep coming back.